Hello, this is Michael Hexter, and welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. This episode I'm calling The Right Builds Quote Unquote Theory on Our Reptilian Brains, comma, Left Theory Builds on Higher Brain Functions. This is a commentary or a reflection on the last video when I was talking about the lack of theory or the lack of updated theory on the left and how it leads to this organization on the left. And I made a contrast with the right wing, which doesn't seem to really need theory as much as the left. There is an emergent theory on the right wing about national conservatism and the use of the state, but it's sort of an inside ball thing that's for the elite leaders of the right wing, while on the left, theory should be something that is widespread and is discussed and is understood by the base, by people, activists, so forth and so on, should become the common sense of a large social movement. Otherwise, the left can't really do anything to change society overall. And certainly in a democratic manner, and that's really the goal. That's my commitment, and it's a commitment of 99% of the left. But anyway, or 95% of the left. But anyway, the uh, the theory that I was thinking about, or I was thinking as after I made that vlog, that video, was that there's really a lower there the brain. There are some theories about the evolution of the brain, but in general, there are parts of our brains that are earlier in evolution. There are parts that have evolved later in the evolution of life on Earth and of vertebrates and so forth and so on, and then among mammals. And there's a theory that's from the 1960s that called the triune brain, which is, I don't entirely subscribe to the whole theory, but the basic facts upon which it's based are pretty well accepted, in that reptiles have brains that have a limbic system, which is sort of the primitive or the oldest part of our brains as well. We have a reptilian part of our brain, as well as what he called a paleomammalian part, and then a neomammalian part, or an old mammal part and then a new mammal part of our brain, basically corresponding to the cortex of the brain, the emotional. There's sort of the basic reflexes that we have that go through our spinal cords, and then also some through the brain stem and some of the lower parts of our brains, and then the what's called the limbic system, which we can debate about what functions are earlier and more primitive than others. And then so basically in MacLean's typology, and then it's never really been disproved per se, but that there's these three kind of architectures in our brain. I think that their connections are more interesting than sort of separating them out. But and this could be something with PET scans, with scans that show brain activity in action, that are dynamic forms of brain scans, that one could potentially study this particular theory and make scientific hypothesis based on it. I'm not. That's not my interest per se, but they could become testable hypotheses. But anyway, to get to the nut or the meat of the particular contention I'm making is that the right wing is based on our reptilian brains, which is the fight or flight response, is one of the key parts of that brain, that in other words that initiates the fight or flight response, and that is the fear-based appeals of the right wing, how it constructs at least the leaders of the right wing construct a fictional world that activates the reptilian brains of many people, and the followers, essentially, and the leaders are the people who manipulate their reptilian brains. But but it's a very comfortable. I mean, it's not comfortable in the sense of it's not a pleasant experience to be uh, um, reduced more to one's reptilian brain, but it creates a very simple cycle of reactivity and of constant activation of this kind of brain that's looking for danger, that is trying to fight potential adversaries, or find adversaries, and or create adversaries in order to fight them, in order to justify the feelings of embattlement, what I call the paranoid. What it's related to, I've done a video over a year ago about the paranoid schizoid position. That's from psychoanalysis, that sort of maps a little bit onto this idea of the reptilian brain being where the right wants to concentrate its efforts, and wants to keep people constantly in fear and reacting, and also finding scapegoats, finding people, and disowning any responsibility for anything, and constantly feeling like a victim. So either fleeing, or fighting, and it often, that those two features of the right wing are observable often by the way that they quickly oscillate between being aggressors and then being the victims of aggress, or they see themselves both as constantly a victim, and therefore justifying aggression that way. So constantly being cornered, and constantly therefore so in their mind cornered, and then constantly attacking based on justifying their aggression by the sense of being cornered, of being a victim of potential aggression from the outside. So anyway, like in contrast, in this theory that I'm proposing here, the left wing is trying to recruit the higher functions of humanity, the ability to plan, the ability to imagine a better future, and to build it based on the most advanced science, the most advanced. I mean, this is traditionally on the left. I'm not saying that the left has kept entirely to this, let's say, ideal view of it, but that it's trying at least to use science, to use understanding, to use human understanding to advance humanity, to foster human cooperation, to bring humanity to a higher level of cooperation that involves use of language, use of our rational abilities to discuss and to talk, to then to create a new society, a socialist society, or a cooperative society, rather than one that's based on fear and hierarchies of domination, and then sort of scapegoating of others, and attempt to find and be in a constant war with of each against each, and to either create wars, essentially, in order to further that fight, that sense of being in battle, that sense of and also to keep the people in the higher positions, who are constantly changing the narrative, to keep on finding those enemies to fight. And so anyway, so this alternate vision of humanity using its higher capacity requires, in my opinion, theories that are reality based, and they're also based on high ethical standards, and trying to encourage people to develop their abilities to foresee the future, to plan for it, to cooperate with each other, to create a better future that's shared among people equally, that's shared or according to, certainly according to participation, but also according to basically to need to create a society that is that encourages prosperity, that builds prosperity on the efforts of all, with the prospect of everybody gaining the fruits of that prosperity. And so that vision, or that requires, again, what I'm saying, these higher functions, these neomammalian functions, the cerebral cortex, that is particularly the frontal lobes of the cerebral. So one could dispute where exactly in the brain one is saying that this is called upon, but the cerebral cortex being certainly the area where a lot of this activity is supposed to happen, and that should be recruited in by, among other things, by good theory. So just now a caveat, or just a way in which one should try to integrate all these parts of the brain. In other words, one can't run away from the reptilian brain or the paleomammalian brain, the brain that is about actually relationships and about sort of empathy and sort of the kind of emotional attachment to people in a small group, that's about the let's say, you could say, tribal interactions, or people or familial interaction, that attachments that people form with each other, that are emotional based, that are based on different shades of emotion, so forth and so on, that needs to be part of the project of the left. So the left cannot just stand on the mountaintop and look down and create a plan for society that doesn't recruit and integrate those other parts of the brain that are not the neomammalian part, or not the frontal cortex, but are also parts of the limbic system, parts of the emotional system, the system of attachment to people, to specific other people. So, and that has been a mistake, I think, of many on the left, is that they've created theories that are at a remove from reptilian brain and the paleomammalian brain, let's say. And that's not how humans become fully engaged with each other, and fully engaged with a political project, fully engaged with now what we're facing, the project of human self-rescue from the disaster of climate change, and the catastrophe of climate change. And so people need to become fully engaged with that project, need to feel that it's their own, feel like, not that it's imposed from outside, not that some leaders are saying you got to do this and that, but that really that they are part of this project as well. So, and that involves all parts of the brain. So both the earlier, more primitive parts, and then also the more advanced parts that have emerged only, in the last, several, tens of thousands of years or something, and certainly, even more intensively, more recently, let's say, with widespread education. Education is about development of some of the skills that are usually localized in the cortex, neocortex, or the frontal cortex even. So anyway, I just wanted to put this out there as a view of the politics, the contrasting politics of right and left, and then also why the left has this maybe additional burden of needing to develop a theory that is humane, that is also forward-looking, that is science-based, that is not only science-based, but that can do some corrections, which it hasn't in the past been able to do, correction of itself based on scientific, a quasi-scientific process, or a process that emulates the scientific method. If it cannot strictly be science as we've known it in experimental science, but at least having some of the ethical commitment to openness to data, openness to reality that the best science represents. Natural science usually, but also some social sciences also represent that form of openness. So and because we're going to need to correct our own views, my own, other people's views of the theory of what, I can produce a theory of how we should proceed now, and I'm trying to do that in some way or another in my, criticisms of existing theory and so forth and so on, and trying to create a new one that's more compelling and more reality based, and is more contemporary, more in touch with what's going on now in society. And what has gone on is also historically enlightening, or can explain history better than our previous political theories and so forth and so on, and economics, and can explain economics better than our existing theories. But ambitious, it's very ambitious, of course, but also we can test it as best as possible, and try to improve it in the future, if we cannot confirm, if our theory cannot be confirmed by the reality, okay, and will not become then less useful, if not immediately, certainly in the long run, or in the medium and long run. So anyway, just some more thoughts about theory that I wanted to add in there, and I will not be always talking about it on this blog, on this this channel, but I just wanted to I just had a thought about this, and I thought it would be interesting to share with you. So please share your comments in the comment section, and also, if you like this video, please like it. If you're interested in Politics 2100, please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.